Hello. So my presentation is on immigration, and just different types of immigration status. So immigration has been one of the main political talking points over the last many decades, starting from back around the 1950s. Everything from in the recent years from DACA to building a wall to separate Mexico and the United States. No matter what side of the political arena you place yourself on, everybody has an opinion. And so today's presentation is just going to be some history behind immigration, different immigration statuses, what makes them different, and how to attain the different statuses. So, in recent years, the arguments on immigration have either been that that immigrants need to go through the legal process obtain citizenship, and that they need to wait their turn, or that the rules for regulations for to attain citizenship should be relaxed, and that our immigration process is too tough. So, which one is it? I'm not here to give my opinion on it, but I'm here to just inform you on some of the processes and rules and stipulations that people have to go through to obtain lawful permanent residency and then to eventually obtain citizenship. So, some of the history behind immigration policy. So, at the beginning of the Cold War, back in the early 50s, around 52, the U.S. combines the immigration laws with the naturalization laws into one federal policy, and this was a quota system that at the time favored white Europeans. Asians were heavily discriminated against when this happened, and again, it was just in favor of white Europeans. In 1956, Hungary revolted against the Soviet Union, the strong communist power at that time, and in fear for their safety, for the people of the country, they decided to try and come to the United States, and Eisenhower used his presidential powers at the time to allow 30,000 refugees from Hungary into America. And this gave later precedent to um, later administrations to use their parole powers and presidential powers to allow refugees into the country. In 1965, there was the 1965 Immigration and Naturalization Act. This shifted away from the quota system being favored towards white Europeans and made it toward or pushed it towards family reunification. And so family that's gotten split up look to get them back together through immigration policy. In 1980, Jimmy Carter signed the Refugee Act of 1980, which increased the number significantly from 17,500 refugees allowed to 50,000. The 1998 or in 1986, they had the Immigration Reform and Control Act. This was a policy that really cracked down on companies that were hiring undocumented immigrants. This it The Reagan administration made it known that they would come after companies that were not abiding by the policy and hiring undocumented immigrants. The 1990 Immigration Act. This expands on the 50,000 visas granted in the Act of 1965. Family reunification was still really important, but they started to expand and hire high skilled workers and educated workers. It set a cap on the unskilled labor that was coming into the country, immigration labor that was coming into the country. Diversity lottery was introduced. This was for countries that don't have the same likelihood of getting or becoming immigrants to the United States. So, like Mexico, their likelihood of immigration is really high. In like Cuba, pretty high. But places from or people from other areas, the chances aren't as likely, and so the diversity lottery allows them to get that chance too. The DREAM Act in 2001, under the Bush administration, Uh, this addressed the large amount of undocumented minors and allowed to a path for citizenship if they met certain requirements and completed high school, or in the requirements being completing high school or serving 2 years in the military. The DACA program, which Obama adds in, this is DACA is based off of Dream Act and just like expanded on a little bit. All right. So history is probably continued. 2001, the 9/11 attacks. Uh, this this event dissolved the Immigration and Naturalization Service and created the Department of Homeland Security. Border security became the main priority. Um, that's when I think it's THS. Yeah, but the security at airports extremely high now. Made the visa process a lot stricter, and it made it easier to detain and deport people suspected of terrorism, involvement in terrorism. And then after that, like so from 2001 up until 2011, Muslim men had to undergo additional screening to travel to and from the U.S. from Muslim countries. 2008. The so in 2008, this was at the end of the Bush administration and the beginning of the Obama administration. This it's a secure communities program or project, and this allows law enforcement to be able to share data with the immigration and customs agencies. Um, they deported a lot of low level criminals, and this did not meet the public well, because the public has the sense that the law enforcement is supposed to be a sense of community and stuff, and so if they're reporting people that stay in the community, people that haven't caused any problems, then there's going to be some backlash from the people that are also living in the community that had no problem with them. And in 2012, DACA was introduced in the Obama administration, and this just prevents the deportation of a student, which student, high school graduate, or military veteran, which the last two were covered under the Dream Act. But the deportation of a student is huge. That population of the total population covered in the three sections there is the largest out of the three. So being able to protect them is keeping a lot of youth safe and safe from being deported. All right, so now that I've talked about a little bit of the history of modern immigration policy, I just want to talk about the different kinds of immigration statuses. And so the top one is the U.S. citizen. No status exceeds this. People can have dual citizenship, meaning they have citizenship in two countries. This just depends on the rule of the country that they're trying to attain the citizenship in. Um, there's lawful permanent residence, or LPR, and this is a green card holder. They're able to stay permanently. It expires, the LPR expires every 10 years, but it's just like how driver's licenses expire every 10 years. They just have to go and update their image and their information and just make sure everything's up to date. LPRs cannot vote. They can travel outside of the U.S. However, if their travel extends plans to extend longer than 6 months, then permission is needed to make that travel. There's a visa or visa holders, and visa holders are or can be LPRs. There's an immigrant visa holder, which is the LPR, and a non-immigrant visa holder. And these are people that are not expected to be here for a substantial amount of time. I believe it's 6 months or less. Um, but this, tourist visas are an example of a non-immigrant visa. Somebody just to come over here for a short period of time, like I said. There's a long list of different types of visas, from anywhere from an investor visa. If you plan to invest more than $1 million in America, then you can apply for that visa. Employment visas through your company, or through a company over here applying for, or having them go through the process of applying for your visa. And then there's another thing called a snitch visa. These are just a couple random ones. But a snitch visa is, if you're a confidential informant for our government, then you can get a visa that way as well if you're providing information on criminal organizations or something within our country. And then there's temporary status, and this is they have permission to stay but not travel. They're protected from deportation, but there's no path to citizenship this way. There's temporary protected status, and that's just like a case that was given to me or that I read was in Honduras when there was a hurricane a couple years, or it wasn't a couple years, it was 1998 that we had protected or we had kept citizens in asylum or in protection here, um, so they didn't have to be deported home into an unsafe living condition and political environment. And then there's no lawful status, and that is entering without a valid visa, without inspection, without anything like that. And then entering with a valid visa, but you've extended your visa. Visas do have time limits, and once you extend that time limit, then your stay is no longer legal. So ways to become a lawful permanent resident, the main way is a family-based petition, and the qualifications are as listed. Immediate family is the highest tier, I guess, the highest reference, and this includes unmarried or spouses, unmarried children under 21, and parents of U.S. citizens. And so, um, for the other references, for the first, second, third, and fourth, visas have to be available for them to be able to apply for or for them to be able to get the visa. But for immediate family, the visas are automatically available. There's no set number of visas for that year. If they're your immediate family and they are a spouse, unmarried children under 21, or a parent and you are a U.S. citizen, then the visa is automatically available. And then it goes down different sections after that. So F1 first is just unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizen. Second is, or there's two parts of second. You have the spouses and children of lawful permanent residents, and you have the unmarried sons and daughters of lawful permanent residents. And the difference between children and sons, unmarried sons and daughters, is just the age of 21. So people under the age of 21 are considered as children, and people over the age of 21 are considered as unmarried sons and daughters. And so the third section is married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, and fourth is the brothers and sisters of U.S. citizens. And then, so this means for the lawful permanent residents, it doesn't include their brothers, their sisters, the married sons and daughters. And then for all statuses, whether you're a U.S. citizen or not, this doesn't include grandchildren, grandparents, nieces, and nephews. All right, and so the next step in the process of becoming a lawful permanent resident is will a visa be available or not? And like we said, if it's the immediate family requirement that is met, then the answer is automatically yes. But if it's not, there are guidelines based on where you're from and determining where the visa or when the visa will be available. So an example I saw was it gave a chart, and so according to the Illinois University College of Law and the Immigration Project, if you're from Mexico and fall into the category of F3, so that was married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, you get put in line as soon as you fill out your visa application, you get put in line. However, they're still going through applications dated back to 1995. That's where they're at as of 2017. And so they have to go through each of those applications first before they get to yours. That's a little ridiculous. All right, and so after you figure out if there's a visa available or not, once there is, then they have to determine if you're admissible. And so the grounds for inadmissibility are health, and health doesn't necessarily have to do with your personal health. So it could be somebody has alcoholism and has multiple DUIs, and they're a health risk to other people. They're not safe to be in a public surrounding. Immigration violations, unlawful presence, so that's being in the country without a visa, or smuggling anything, people, goods across the country border is smuggling. Criminal grounds, fraud, misrepresentation. So if you put false information on like who you are, where you're from, anything like that, to be able to get in the United States, that is fraud. Um, or public charge. That's so someone's a public charge if they cost the government money. If they're a financial liability when they come to the government's going to have to support them. They're going to be inadmissible. Or they're suspected of terrorism or public security. So some alternate routes, if you're not going through the family-based petition route, are employment-based petitions. Some can lead to a permanent visa, like we said earlier. Refugees and asylees can get lawful permanent residency. The diversity lottery program, like we said earlier, the people that don't have the likelihood as other or as much of a likelihood as other people to get the immigration status, then the diversity lottery program is great for them. And then humanitarian relief, which is extremely rare, and that is for um, citizens in the United States who can no longer take care of themselves. This is just an example, but a sick mom or your sick mother can't take care of herself, and so you apply for lawful permanent residency to take care of her, but that is extremely rare in most cases. So now that we've talked about some of the ways to become a lawful permanent resident, I want to talk about the path to U.S. citizenship. And so people that were born in the United States, they're automatically a citizen, born with citizenship. If your parent has you while they're outside the U.S., then you are a U.S. citizen. I forgot to mention with the birthright citizenship. If you're born on a U.S. military base or a U.S. territory, that also gives you birthright citizenship. um, a child who is a lawful permanent resident and lives with a parent who's a lawful permanent resident, and the parent naturalizes, becoming a U.S. citizen, then the child also becomes a U.S. citizen as well. The if an individual who is over 18 and has been a lawful permanent resident for 3 to 5 years, and then goes through the naturalization process, they're eligible to become a citizen as well. So naturalization is just the admittance of a foreigner to the citizenship of one's country. And like we said, some of the qualifications, LPR for 3 to 5 years. They haven't done anything that would void their residency. They show good moral character. They haven't been convicted of any crimes, and they're able to pass the English and civics test uh, that is given to them. Now that we've talked about the history of immigration policy, we've talked about the different immigration statuses, we've talked about the stipulations and rules into obtaining those statuses, and then ultimately the path to obtaining those statuses. Now, I just want to go over something that relates to today's time. Over the past couple of years, the Trump administration has been talking extensively about ending DACA. I've heard that multiple times on the news, and I don't even follow the news that much. And as we've discussed, this program was created to benefit immigrants that are undocumented, that are in school, graduates of high school, or had served 2 years in the military. In this case, the Supreme Court stepped in and ruled against this, and people that have met these qualifications still benefit and can benefit from DACA today. So now, some of the questions I'd like to ask and to be thought about is the process to attain citizenship in the United States too much? Is do we have enough? Do we hand out enough visas? Is the process to obtain legal permanent residency too much? Should it be tier based as it was? How we looked at one, two, three, and four on like married sons and daughters and so on. Um, should there be any leniency? Just something to think about. Is it fair that a married son or daughter from Mexico must wait for the Department of Homeland Security to go through 22 years worth of applications until theirs is even looked at? This is obvious to me, especially since they might not even get through a year's worth of applications in a year. Like there might just be too many for that year to go through within a year, and so it just continuously pushes the time back. So that was made in 2017. I wouldn't be surprised if they're they're only in 1996 worth of applicants, and we're in 2023 years later, if that makes sense. And then under the Security or Secure Communities Act, law enforcement could share information with immigration and customs about undocumented immigrants. And I know they're not under they're not citizens, so they're not protected under the Constitution. But should these people's privacy be protected? Just something to think about. I think it's completely wrong that their information is being given away, but it's also, I guess, wrong that they're in the United States without legal documentation. So, something to think about. All right, that's my presentation. Thank you so much.